Jeff?
I'm not Jeff. Brian.
Uh-huh.
I'm the teacher.
You're the teacher.
Yeah.
Professor Fenton, you've been here 20 years. We would like to offer you a new opportunity.
Early retirement.
You aren't inspired. Just focus on writing.
Danny, everything all right?
Things have gotten a little bad.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not like you.
He's 30 years old. He can't just come traipsing in and out of here whenever he wants. This must be Dawn.
I bet you weren't counting on all these visitors, huh?
Life is not a joke. You got drug dealers coming after you. You gotta get your life together.
That's why I'm here.
I just wanted to call you and tell you that your dad hit his head kind of hard. I'm not sure if he recognized me.
I'm so sorry, Claire. What can I do to help?
What kind of sons would we be? We let Daddy fall apart like this and just do nothing. We need to get down here. Decisions need to be made.
It's like I discovered a whole new dimension of the man. Claire calls him Mr. Wonderful. And I wonder if I ever really, truly knew him at all.
I bet you'd love to talk to him now.
This is the story of hope. It's about memories and about truth. This is a story of love. This is mystery, just like he was. Yeah, I'm here.
Right.
Yeah. I love you.
Hey everybody, got a Three Geeks conversation. I have Daniel Blake Smith. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, Justin. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. And you're here to talk to us about your movie, which you directed, you wrote. Oh, you didn't direct. Forgive me, I misread that. But you wrote, produced. Yeah, Mr. Wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about your film?
Well, it's both autobiographical and fictional. It involves a lot of family stuff that's true. It's based on my novel of the same title. And it's about three generations of a family, that the centerpiece of which is this college professor guy played by Michael Madsen, the late Michael Madsen. It is in his final role, by the way, and I think his best role, even though, of course, he was made famous for playing Mr. Blonde. Mr. Blonde in Quentin Tarantino's film Reservoir Dogs. It's a long way from Mr. Blonde to Mr. Wonderful, but it also involves a lot of more dynamic and nuanced acting that I think he got to really sink his teeth into our film, which is about a guy who's, you'd say his life is falling apart. He's about to get fired at his little small college where he's been teaching history, which I used to teach at the University of Kentucky. And he's got a son that's hadn't figured out a path of life and is quite frankly on the run from some drug dealers wanting to be paid. He's got a crazy girlfriend that's chasing him as well. And then the character Professor Benton, Brian Fenton, is also besieged by the fact that his own father, back in Texas, a country doctor, is suffering from dementia and is struggling to stay alive, quite frankly. So he's kind of got a lot going on, none of it great, a lot on his plate, none of it very tasty, and is trying to make order out of it, make sense of it, trying to advise his son, give him some life goals and skills, and at the same time figure out what's going on with his own career late in life and how can he help his own father. So it's that's why the tagline is so meaningful. It was the tagline for the movie is "How will you be remembered?" And we never, when we came up with that tagline, we had no idea that our lead actor a year later would die. Yeah. And so it's a legacy film we never thought of about Michael Madsen as well.
Yeah, and your poster is incredible. I really did dig it. And you had your tagline there, so I kind of pulled it up.
Thank you. That was cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So how was it working with Michael Madsen? You mentioned him. I feel like as an outsider, not knowing him from anything, just from his films, it feels like he's a really cool dude. I hope that's the case. I hope that was the case. But
He was. I mean, he's we caught him toward the end of his career. I mean, we didn't think the end of his life, but the end of his career, toward the end of it, and was a guy who, wasn't sure that the industry respected him the way it had years before when he was doing Tarantino films and Tombstone and a whole bunch of other films. Thelma and Louise, you name it. He's been in a lot of films, 75 of them, I think. And we gave him something that was very challenging for him to do, something he'd never done before. In fact, we market the film in some ways as Michael Madsen as you've never seen him before kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is true. And there's a lot of dialogue because it's he was playing a college professor. As a former college professor, I know firsthand, there's a lot of talking going on there that did not happen when he was a tough guy playing all those roles in Hollywood with Tarantino and the rest. So that was a challenge to think about the script as dialogue driven rather than action driven. This is not an action film. It's a family drama. It's a little bit like Silver Linings Playbook. It meets August Osage County, where there's a lot of multi-generational things happening. And it's about family and how you make your way in the world and how are you living in a way that is going to be remembered well by those who have come to know you and are in your family and in your circle of friends. And I think he came to, at first he was resisting it, thinking these are too many words. How can I handle this? But when he got up there at the lectern to be giving lectures to his students, and then a lot of the drama began because some of these entitled students gave him trouble, and he just sort of clicked into it. Like, I've been a professor before, even though he never had, and I know how to handle this. And he was terrific to work with, and we miss him terribly. And for us, it's a sad thing to say, but it's accurate. His death has helped elevate the film.
Sure.
I don't mean that like enjoy, but I never thought that would happen. But you Google the words Michael Madsen, Mr. Wonderful, and 30 or 40 pieces come up in the trades about this story, his life, our film, the poignancy of it, for his own legacy. And so we like to think that unintentionally his own demise was a way to say, look, take a look at my last film, see what else I could have done.
Sure. Yeah, sure. And I watched the trailer that you sent over, and it felt like a very relatable movie. As a millennial myself, I felt like you can very much tie yourself into a character that's being portrayed. You mentioned it came from the book that you've written. Have you written a lot of books? So was that a hard transition to pull the book into a film? Was that kind of a hard thing?
Not too much for me. I've become more of a screenwriter than an author over the years, although I still write books. I've got a book coming out next October about a totally different story, but it's a true story, a nonfiction piece. And I've been writing. Of course, I was a historian at the University of Kentucky, like this guy. He's not at the University of Kentucky. It's all contrived. I think it's called Southern California University or some made up place.
Sure. Yeah.
But it is tough in the sense that you realize when you write a novel, as this was, drawn from personal experiences mostly, but also made up in spots, that it's one thing to write that in a novel form and give full form to all your thoughts and feelings, what it looked like, it felt like. And then when you make a movie out of that, adapt it into a screenplay, you realize, okay, I've got to make this, I've got to be thinking about pacing, about who's playing these roles. I don't have time for people to maybe read a chapter, then go to the bathroom and come back or whatever. We want them, they're going to be watching this for 90 minutes straight. You better keep the pacing and the excitement and the storyline and the conflict front and center all the time. So it makes it hard to keep a lot of portions of the novel in the script because some of those just don't work so well in the real-time experience of an audience member watching a movie. You've got to really be, what's the phrase? You got to be able to kill your darlings. You got to be willing to make the pace of the film and the story really be kinetic and moving forward at all times. So I've done that before, but it was really tough with personal experiences. I do adapt a lot of things. I'm adapting a film right now for Ridley Scott for and actually it's about a near-death experience, and that's somebody else's work, not mine. And it's a little easier to be hardcore about that than it is with your own novel. So I both knew what the good parts were in my novel, but at the same time realized, okay, you got to, I don't care how many good parts you think you've got to be just vicious about realizing what can go in there and what can't, what's absolutely essential and what's kind of peripheral.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And you mentioned you're a historian, a professor. You transitioned to film. What kind of spurred that on? Or like, because I looked at some of your history, your films and stuff you produced for, you written for, a lot of it felt like, I was going to ask you this, I was like, are you a big historian? And you mentioned it while we were talking, is there's a lot of documentaries, a lot of like a history buff kind of a thing. Is that kind of what led you into film, is documentaries and things like that? Like, I want to tell this story on.
It was kind of a bridge into it because first of all, I think good historians, even if all they write are books, and I've got, as I say, I still write books as well, are the original storytellers. I think good history is a good story, first and foremost. And, but I did feel the urge to get beyond writing for mainly people who are history bugs, and why not write for general audiences and tell a good story, whether it's factual and historical or not. And so some of the things I've done, like this one I just did, Mr. Wonderful, is probably half historical or true and half made up. But then I did a film called Texas Heart that involved people I knew growing up, but the story was completely made up. So I call it mostly fictional. I'm adapting this thing called Embraced by the Light, the Ridley Scott film that's based upon a true experience, somebody else's. I'm doing a sequel to Mr. Wonderful called Love and Money, which is about, if you may recall, Justin, in the trailer, there's the young couple that's crazy, Danny and Dawn. Well, this is their story. What happens to them in the aftermath of the climax of Mr. Wonderful, where they get a new lease on life to try and reinvent themselves because they need to, given what's happened with their lives so far. And that is mostly made up. So I've come to believe that, if you tell a good story, whether it's true or not, it has an emotional truth that people can resonate with. Like, I appreciated you saying that the trailer felt like these characters were relatable, and they are. So you don't have to struggle to think, what are they even talking about? What is their problem? You can sense it. You're probably too young to have too many people you know of that are struggling with Alzheimer's and all that, but you certainly know what that is. And there are a lot of people who are, feeling the pain of folks in their families who are in that really tough part of their lives where they look like themselves, but inside their heads they've just lost a lot of their essence, and it's really, really a tough thing to do. And it comes. I wouldn't say Mr. Wonderful is about that subject. It's not an Alzheimer's film, but there's a component of it that gets into that a little bit. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. You mentioned Mr. Wonderful. What was the set like? Was it hard to, like, being there, being the producer, being the writer, being the author, like being on set? How often were you on set? I guess is probably the primary question. And then, like, were you saying, hey, were you giving advice to the actors and being like, hey, kind of, this is where my mind was when I wrote the thing, when I wrote the human? Does that help or hurt, or did that happen at all?
Well, I was on set almost the entire time. And we shot, believe it or not, we shot the entire film in 8 days out in LA.
Oh, okay.
8 days. So it was intense, a lot of Red Bull to get through that. And struggle to resist the temptation to give advice, because they'll take advice from a director, but when a writer's standing around and a producer like I am, it gets intimidating and feels forced and so forth. So what I would sometimes do is over lunch privately talk to the director and say, can you move them to maybe this kind of way of thinking about these scenes? And sometimes that worked and helped. And sometimes it's like, hey man, we got this, don't worry. And many times it turned out they did, by improving some things that I never thought was going to work, but they did. A few times I think they might have been well advised to listen to me, but I'm not sure they would think that. Sure. On balance, you just have to sit back and trust your director and the actors to find the right moment of truth for their character, for that moment in the scene, what's happening to the plot, and so forth. Because you in this business, you learn as a writer, especially, the movie and the story becomes a very collaborative experience, and it's out of your hands mostly. I mean, if they're doing something that's diametrically opposed to what you've written and they're going off on some other riff and changing things arbitrarily, that's one thing. And of course, nothing like that happened. But, you get into the nuances of, well, did he tell that story the way I would want to? Well, no, but that doesn't make it makes it different, but not worse. And, sure. And these people, for the most part, elevated the story with their acting and their nuance and their feeling about it. So that's one of the joys of doing a film, is realizing that set designers, production designers, cinematographers, editing, the actors, of course, and the director all come together, and in the best of circumstances, and we mostly had the best of circumstances, give the film and the story and the characters greater intensity, even amplified meaning, and it really rises to the top in most cases. There are a few exceptions, but mostly it just really takes on a life of its own that you could not have imagined happening when you were writing the script.
Yeah. Being the writer and the producer, are you a producer out of necessity to get your stuff made, or do you really enjoy that facet of it? Or because I feel like you really like writing. If the fact that you're writing books prior to writing scripts, if I had to probably just guess, you enjoy writing more than producing, but there's a chance that I'm just wrong.
No, I do like writing. I mean, and writing is the core essence. We writers like to say, no script, no movie. Yeah. I'm sure some producers say, I wish the script was different because then we can make a better movie. But I learned a lesson from way back when my very first experience in producing, in writing and getting a film produced was, oh my God, I'll tell you how many years ago it was. We made a movie about Edgar Allan Poe for PBS with Philip Glass did the music for it. And we had John, what's the guy from Home Alone, the actor? John.
Oh boy. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Jonathan Taylor Thomas, that guy? No, John. I can't say his name now. And Treat Williams was in it, and a bunch of other people. And we shot it in North Hollywood, and it was a biopic drama kind of background for public television. Yeah.
And I was just the writer, and there was a real problem with the person who came in to direct part of it. And I objected to, I told the producer I knew well, I said, this is not going right. This person's just trying to create a little standalone 8 to 10 minute part of the movie for themselves so they could be an Oscar qualifying short or something. They're not really fitting into the story. And she said to me, Dan, let me give you a little tip. If you want to have any say over how things go next time, make sure you're a producer. And just ever since that moment, which was many years ago, we'll say how many years ago, I have never failed to be a producer on my show, because it doesn't mean it's going to go your way all the time, but it means you have a seat at the table when decisions are made about casting and who's going to be in the crew and locations and attitudes toward the director and all this stuff. Yeah. And so I have always maintained that feeling, even though I can't say that I personally redirected the direction of the movie or anything, but I I kept things from going off the rails a few times in my career by being a producer, and it makes you be in touch with every aspect of the film because the producer literally does everything except direct.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you tell me, because I was just going through your IMDb, American Master seems like an incredible series. Like, what was that like?
That was a series it was on, yeah. American Master series.
Okay.
And it was a film called Terror of the Soul, Edgar Allan Poe.
Got it.
And it was kind of a biopic about him and his work. And it was a thrill to get to work on that. Later on, did a film that I'm actually the most proud of all in terms of just profound, was a film called February 1, the story of the Greensboro Four, about those four guys in 1960, of all time, way back then, who sat down for service and stood up for civil rights back at the lunch counter at Woolworths, it was called. I don't know if you know about Woolworths, lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina. And that launched much of the civil rights movement. And they were getting pretty old in their life when I got to meet them and do interviews with them, because this was a docudrama, mostly documentary with dramatic elements in it too as well.
Yeah.
About these four guys who are 17 years old at North Carolina A&M, and they had the balls, the guts to just stand up for all this. They weren't professional protesters at all. Like one of them said, "Hey, we just wanted to eat," and they changed the whole civil rights movement into much more youthful. It gave real power and dimension to African Americans at the time. And in interviewing those guys, it was so ennobling to sit next to them and to hear their story and to think to myself, I could never have done what they did. And yet they did. And that film still matters hugely to me in the arc of my work over the years, because I felt like I did a pretty good job, along with the people who helped make the movie. Of course, it wasn't just me.
Sure.
And, but I interviewed them, and I did a lot of the editing and the cultivation of the storyline of the film. That I feel like I gave good voice to what they were trying to do and the conflicts they engaged in and struggled against their own families, because their families were freaking out. Like, we sent you to go to school, not to start, start this kind of thing. And they said, well, I just can't live like this. It's dehumanizing to me that, because I'm a black dude, I walk into a Woolworths and I can't sit down at the lunch counter.
Yeah.
We think that's maybe poignant and silly now, but that was a big thing back then. Yeah. So anyway, I'm very proud of that film, and that's one of the most riveting moments I had, was doing the interview with those guys.
I believe that very much. Where can folks watch that? That seems like
it's on. If you go to California Newsreel, that's a distributor that has the film. Okay. We've shown it all over the country in colleges and universities and African American Museum of History in DC. Sure. But California Newsreel is the distributor for the film.
Okay, cool. Well, speaking of distribution, I do want to talk about Mr. Wonderful's distribution, but first, you mentioned some film festivals before we kind of hit record on this whole interview. So I'd love to tell us like kind of like what that process is like, where you're going to, where you're taking the film, and it seems like a really exciting thing. I'm always excited to hear about film festivals and people going and doing them. Really
film festivals are a way to, first of all, get your film in front of an audience finally, instead of just something you've been watching on your own, in your inbox and looking at edits and all the rest. It's like, what do you think people will think of this film? Well, there's your first chance to get a feel for audience interaction with it. And we've been so pleased and thrilled to see that audiences have found it, at minimum, very relatable, and sometimes just highly dramatic. There have been a lot of tears and concerns and questions, and we do Q&As after each of these performances. Sure. I started out at Rehoboth Beach, of all places, for the world premiere. We went to St. Louis International Film Festival. I live in St. Louis. Cool. We did some screenings in Austin, Texas, this thing in Beaufort, South Carolina. We're going in a couple of weeks to Phoenix for the Chandler International Film Festival, later on in Iowa, Dubuque. just all over the country. Before we get to the big kahuna, which is what everybody strives for, is can you get distribution, which is always the toughest thing because it's hard to get people to want to pick your film up and distribute it and commit to it. Plus, you got to worry about you got to be taken down by the distributors because they want to make the most money and give you the least. But we made a deal just a few days ago with Indie Rights out of LA, a wonderful independent film distribution company that I've worked with once before. They did Texas Heart, my film. And they've picked this up, and it looks like we're going to have an official release date of October the 17th. I mean, not October, February the 17th. Sure. And preceding that by a few days, Friday the 13th, February 13th, we will have a red carpet premiere of the film in the Crescent Theater in Beverly Hills, California, with a lot of press and hoopla and excitement about launching the film for everybody worldwide to see, because they'll get this up on all the platforms and so forth. So it'll be available to everyone.
That's incredible. That's really exciting.
It is very exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Otherwise, you're just hawking it out of the trunk of your car, or I don't know. I mean, I'm not making fun of people.
There's always Tubi. There's YouTube. There's plenty of places we can get it out there. We'll figure it out.
No, but it's and Indie Rights is very filmmaker friendly. They give a good split. We get 80% of the money instead of 60 or 70% like it is in some places.
Yeah.
And they help you market it in the most financially friendly way you can with social media and so forth. So we're really pumped to give Mr. Wonderful a chance to meet the world, because the meetings we've seen at all these festivals are extremely encouraging.
Yeah. If you're okay with it, because I don't know if it'll get flagged or not, but I will include the trailer in this interview.
Oh, please do.
Yeah. But I did want to ask you, is there any fun memories, like an 8-day set, an 8-day shoot? Like, what do you have a favorite moment? Like, oh crap, my movie's done, or my movie got made, or do you have a fun memory?
Well, one fun memory was I got to do the thing that a lot of directors do way back in the day, which is to have my own little quiet private cameo in the film. In a really fun knockdown, drag out funeral scene, which you don't usually call funeral.
That's a sentence.
But there is some very wild shenanigans that goes on at the end of the movie surrounding a funeral scene, and I got to be mourner number 5, as I called it, dressed up in funeral clothing, and the camera pans across me carefully. I made sure the director did that. I don't have any lines, but I got to people who know me say, "How much did you pay them to let you be in this film? You can't act," which is not inaccurate. Not my favorite thing, or not my most obvious skill as an actor. But that was a lot of fun, and just watching the way certain people. Michael Madsen, at one point, there's a scene. Maybe it shows up a teeny bit in the trailer where you see these guys fighting in the backyard. He throws a guy in the pool.
Maybe
it's his pool, and they're having a big fight. And he comes out and breaks up this fight and throws at these guys, this punk out of his yard. Get out of my house, get off my yard, and all that. And after he said cut, he came over to me and he said, "Finally, I got to do something." Meaning, I wasn't just talking. I was the old guy, the tough guy. I finally got to get a moment like that I'm used to being on screen.
That's awesome. Being the big history buff that you are, is there, let's not worry about budget, what's the story you'd like to tell? What's something in history that someone hasn't done or didn't do it well, and you're like, man, if I had all the budget all the time, what is something you'd want to recreate or bring to life on the screen?
Well, that's a big question. There's lots of things.
I figured the historian would know.
My mind is rolling around. Well, one thing, I guess I'll bring up the thing I did get to do, but only in a very strictly limited documentary fashion and not in a feature film, tell it in the biggest, most dramatic way possible, was to tell the story, since I'm part Cherokee, of the Trail of Tears. And we did a documentary called Cherokee Legacy, The Trail of Tears. James Earl Jones was our narrator. And Wes Studi, the great Cherokee actor who's in Heat and a bunch of other films, Hostels and all that, also helped narrate it with speaking in Cherokee language. And we told the story in an interesting way, but kind of, I wouldn't say academic, but covering all these bases, interviewing scholars, all that stuff, and you tell some of the story. I would like to tell that story from a dramatic perspective. It's a really fascinating one that people, I don't think, even come close to appreciating the tragedy that went on there. But that's a very big budget story that actually, of all people, the guy named Alan Richson, you know him, the guy that up in plays.
That's Reacher, right?
Reacher, yeah, Reacher. Yeah. Called me up one day just before Reacher started. He was filming the first episode of Reacher. Wasn't sure it was going to turn out, and he said, "This is Alan Richson." Of course, I didn't know at that point exactly who he was. He said, "Well, I've been reading your books, and you wrote a book called American Betrayal, Cherokee Patriots, The Trail of Tears, and I'd like to make that into a film." And I thought, damn, this guy's who, I hope you are somebody at the time. I thought he's a little bit of a wannabe, but okay. And then he said, but let me see what happens with this Reacher thing, because I don't know if it's going to go anywhere or not. And if it does, I've got people at Amazon and all the Hulu, all the rest of the streamers willing to at least listen to my ideas. And I'd like to use your book and your story ideas, bring you on as a consultant to do a limited series on the Trail of Tears. I said, this is fantastic. If you're actually, I said to myself, if you're actually any good, Alan. Okay. Flash forward a month later, it's a huge mega hit, and now he's way too big to even do it. So it shows you can't count on anything.
Oh, he's not. Oh, you could do it. Oh, Dan, let's make it happen, man. Let's do it.
I wish I could, but he's got people telling him, here's the 25 projects that have been presented to you this week. Let's find one that we might want to do. So sure. I've been totally lost in the shuffle, even though he does answer my email sometimes, but it's like, I'm not going to bug him about it. But there was that one moment where I thought I had it.
There was a window. It's not closed yet, Dan. We can do this. This is good.
I'll have you call him up, maybe Jason. I talked to Dan. You should do it.
I think you have more cachet with him than I do, my friend.
It's a crazy world. That's why I call it Hollyweird, because you just don't know what's going to happen, and more likely what's not going to happen.
Either way, that's a really exciting story. That's cool. Yeah, I hope it does. Yeah, and if it does happen, bring Alan and yourself back to the show, because that would be great for the show that I'm a part of.
Maybe if he sees Mr. Wonderful and Michael Madsen, he'll say, hey, this guy can actually write some stuff. He's not just a historian, but he may also just say, Dan who? I don't know.
No, he wouldn't say that. He's answering your emails, man. You're already in there.
And he talked to me for about an hour. Of course, that was before he became massively famous.
Yeah. Oh, you're the guy before he became the guy. That's
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been incredible talking with you, Dan. When you said February, right? Did I hear right?
February the 17th looks like the official release date, and then the red carpet premiere will be 4 days earlier. That on Friday night, February the 13th, at the Crescent Theater in Beverly Hills.
Awesome. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you really wanted to tell the people? Anything that I
like to pitch the fact that I mentioned this, that the sequel to the film, Mr. Wonderful, is going to be called Love and Money, and it features the younger generation, Danny and Dawn, who are such misfits, but lovable misfits in this film. And you get to follow their story because he becomes a PI for his mom, the lawyer in the film, and the wife of Michael Madsen in the film. And Dawn becomes a restaurateur in St. Louis. She opens up a foodie-based restaurant that's called the Dawn of Good Eats. And he stumbles upon a ring of money laundering Dixie Mafia people that, lo and behold, turns out to be the ones behind the funding of his own girlfriend's restaurant, unbeknownst to her. So his dream of being a big shot PI collides with her dream of having a big success as a restaurant owner. So it's really kind of a cool story about, it's a romantic thriller, I guess you'd say, involving those two people. So
yeah, that's awesome.
that's next up.
And now, are you're that's the book, or you're actually going to make the movie out of that too?
That's a movie script based upon another novel I wrote, which was wonderful, called Crazy Love.
Got it.
I wrote a novel about this thing, and once again turned it into a script, and we've made such a success, I think, out of Mr. Wonderful that we're going to do the sequel, not called Crazy Love, but called Love and Money.
Dope. I get to St. Louis once a year, and I have the best ribs there. Pappy's is my favorite place.
Oh, the barbecue at Pappy's. Oh, yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, the ribs. Oh man,
you can't go wrong with that place. I mean, it's always busy, and it's the best. I know that Memphis, and I grew up in Texas, so Texas.
It's probably different. You probably have a different level of ribs.
Yeah, it's all about brisket there, of course. But Pappy's knows what they're doing, man. That's great stuff. I
very much agree. Where can folks find you online?
DanielBlakeSmith.com.
Okay.
Cool. My name. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram and hopefully, I sort of say movie theaters everywhere, streamers and platforms everywhere.
I mean, hopefully soon. Hopefully,
Alan
will get back to you. You'll have a Trail of Tears film that can be everywhere.
And I'll introduce you to Alan.
Man, that'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool. I don't really think you should hold your breath on that, but you never know.
No, but I have faith in you. Listen, even if you forget about me and you go make your movie, it's still gonna be very cool. Well, everybody, I think we did it. Thank you so much, Jan. It was wonderful talking to you.
Same here. Great time.
All right. See you, everybody.
You bet.